Okay, you guys, onward, here we go. And hopefully, you already wrote the title of this lesson, which is using rate of change. Okay, new vocabulary, once again, that is connected to linear functions, the equation of a line. It's all interconnected. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we go back to something that totally connects it. Okay, so when we go back to Unit 3, we had to know how to what? Write the equation of a line just by looking at it on the graph. And how did we do that? We started by writing y equals mx plus b. Okay, this is a little bit of a review. And then writing y equals blank x plus blank. Okay, because when we're looking at the equation of a line or this linear function on the graph, in order to write the equation of the line, we have to fill in the slope and the y-intercept. So let's do that right now. We had to, in order to, where does this line cross over the y-axis? Well, it looks like it's crossing over the y-axis at a -1. So that would be our y-intercept because the line is crossing over the y-axis at a -1. And then how do we find the slope? We have to find 2 points on the line, okay? And then say, how did we get from this point to this point? Well, it's not perfect, as you can tell, but how did I get from this point to this point? I went up 2 over 1. And so here is the equation of our line, okay? Or our linear function, okay? So y equals 2x minus 1. So we were able, just as a review, to write the equation of a line by looking at it on the graph. Well, today's lesson is we are going to write the equation of a line by looking at the information on a table. Okay, same exact thing. Instead of writing the equation of a line from a graph, we're writing the equation of a line from a table. Okay, so how do we do that? We use what's called the rate of change. We still write y equals mx plus b. I'm just going to erase this. Okay, and let's just pretend we don't know what the equation of the line is. Let's just pretend. And, we're going to write y equals mx plus b, and then y equals blank x plus blank, because we still have to fill in the slope and the y-intercept. And I want everyone to put the star, okay, the star underneath the slope and circle. Put the star, do it now, okay? Seriously, this is, okay, the slope, okay, it's called the slope. But in today's lesson, it's also called the rate of change. Rate of change. Okay? And so what is the slope formula? Let's come over here. Let's remind ourselves of what the slope formula is. We know that the slope formula is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. We remember that, okay? But when we're talking about the rate of change, okay, basically it's the change in y divided by the change in x, okay? So we're going to call that delta y over delta x. That's the Cliff Notes, that's the shortcut, that's the shorthand, that is the same. These two things mean exactly the same thing, okay? So we have slope and we have rate of change. This is the slope formula. This is for the change in y over the change in x, meaning delta y over delta x. Well, what do we mean by that? How do we find this rate of change? Well, we're going to use the table to find the rate of change. Okay, so the change in y. Well, what are the y values? Your range. Okay, so here we have, how did we get from a -3, to a -1? Well, we had to add 2. How did we get from a -1 to a +1? We added 2. How did we get from a +1 to a +3? We added 2. How did we get from a +3 to a +5? We added 2. I think you can see the pattern, okay? This pattern here is not always going to be the same, okay? And that's okay. you just keep going because the rate of change will be determined by the change in y over the change in x. So here we go. How did we get from a -1 to a 0? We had to add 1. How did we get from 0 to 1? We added 1. How did we get from 1 to 2? We added 1. And how did we get from 2 to 3? We added 1. Okay, so the change in y over the change in x. So what was our change in y? Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So we're going to put 2. And then what was our change, our delta x? Our change in x, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So 2 over 1. And what does that simplify to? 2. So what is our slope in our equation from the table? What is our rate of change? That would be, let's write it in black, that would be a positive 2. That's how we find the slope, okay, by using the information in the table, the change in y over the change in x, to get the slope of the equation of that linear function, okay? And now part 2 is what you already know how to do, blast from the past. Let me go ahead and give us some space here, okay? So we know what the slope is now, so we just have to solve for what? Solve for b. We don't know what the b is. So write your empty equals 2 empty plus b. And what are we going to do? We're going to choose, okay, one of the points in the table, one of the ordered pairs in the table, and what do you think I'm going to choose? Okay, I'm going to give you positive 1, positive 1. You guessed it, okay? We're always going to choose the easiest, ordered pair. So here we go. Oh, okay, that was graceful. Positive 1, solve for b. So here we go. 2 times 1 is 2 plus b. Subtract 2 from both sides, and b equals -1. And where does that go? That goes right here. -1, and here is the equation of our line. Okay? So, in order for us to write the equation of a line from a table, we have 2 steps. Okay? We have to find out the change in y and divided by delta y over delta x. Okay? Simplify, get the slope, and then step 2, solve for b. Okay? We're going to go over some examples live, but that's basically the concept of how you use a table to write the equation of a line or a linear function.